Much.
We are live.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Hey, we got some space between.
Yeah.
Give her some room.
Every time I get to speak.
Good. Yep. Hey, Jerry, can you test your mic, please? Can't hear him. Steve?
I'm not sure he hears us.
He heard us.
Did he?
Yeah, we can't hear him, though. Thanks, sir. Sorry, folks. Give us just a minute with a technical glitch.
Try again.
Jerry? Nope. There's an error on the screen, Steve.
Try again.
Jerry?
Tell him to sing the Star Spangled Banner.
That'll take too long. Jerry is a really good singer,
It's an
from what
IT
I've heard.
We're playing charades with them.
Yeah. It's an IT problem.
2 fingers for no, 1 finger for yes.
Jerry.
He could just put it on paper and then hold it up to the screen.
And then there were 5.
Yeah.
Are you going to be able to come to the Phillies cook-off?
Did they change one? If you happen to get the
Yeah,
Wednesday,
they set a
if they
date.
changed
I'll have to get it for you. It's
to be more
October
than,
or
I hope it's
something.
not.
I'll get
They
you the
did,
date.
because
Third weekend in Colorado, but other than that,
General session 8 to
I want to be
10.
around.
Try that, he said.
Yeah.
Hey, Jerry.
some late, there's a dinner Tuesday
Nope.
night,
No, Jerry.
or an event, 7, I think, 7 to 9 or something.
Hey, Jerry. Nope.
He's laughing or just smiling.
You know what the real question is? Can they hear him on YouTube or not? Probably not, though, I guess.
Probably not now.
Oh, I don't know. That's a good question.
You have to go to the YouTube page and check.
Check.
Is that clock right by your phone?
We gotta get rolling,
Oh.
don't we?
Watch is,
No,
no,
that's
my
not it.
watch is off.
Oh. Actually, that's 7:06, this is 7:03.
Hey, Jerry. Oh.
I'm not sure what to do, Andy. I'm sorry.
What would you like to do, Steve?
Tell Jerry to get his mic working.
Start the meeting.
I would like to do that. I mean, do we need Jerry this evening?
Not for a quorum,
If he calls
Right.
in via cell phone, can we mic the cell phone?
not if it's not a true video conference. If he's going to vote on anything with a roll call, he's got to be heard.
So we have quorum without him.
Yeah.
Do we have any we don't have anything.
There's nothing major on the,
Yeah, as long as he's not participating in a roll call vote, he can call in. It's the roll call vote that requires. the video
Jerry,
conference.
say something.
right?
Yeah, the point of learning, do we have to have a roll call on all resolutions?
No, no. That's just a voice vote as opposed to a roll call. So just all in favor,
No question till afterwards. Sometimes we do that.
Yeah, sometimes when you can't tell who's voting in favor or who's not.
Oh, is that the reason, just for clarification, who's saying what?
I have him on YouTube, and you can't hear him on YouTube either.
October 22nd.
October 22nd.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the weekend I'm in Colorado. I knew that was going to happen.
I think they do that intentionally now.
When can it be? Hopefully shooting some pheasants and catching some fish.
Nice. That would be cool.
Yeah.
Is Jerry's mic?
Up. Was that him? No.
Some type of delay.
Hey. Hey, it's me. Well, I mean, you can just not be here, it's fine, since we can't seem to get the tech fixed. Okay. No. Yeah, no, we don't, yeah. No, it's fine. We'll just hang up then. All right, Jerry. Cool, thanks. You can just hang up with Jerry, Steve. That way we can get this thing moving. He's okay with us ending it.
Oh,
Are you there, Jerry? Oh, we can hear you now. Yeah.
Sort of.
Is it being recorded?
So-
microphone by him or something.
So we can just, Steve, let's just hang up with it so we don't, and then we'll just move on without Jerry.
Fine, whatever you want to do.
Okay.
You can mic him.
We'll just hang up with Jerry. All right, good evening, everybody. We'll call the meeting to order for the September 6th Board of Aldermen meeting. We apologize for the delay this evening, some technical difficulties. So if we can have roll call, please.
Alderman Nemeth,
Here?
Alderman Cleve,
Here.
Alderman Gendron,
Here.
Alderman Presley,
Here.
Alderman Lesh,
Here.
Administrator Roth,
Here.
Attorney Jones,
Here.
Chief Meliz,
Here.
Collector Kelly absent, Commissioner Brueggemann, Community Director Myers.
Excellent. So if everybody could rise for Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Then I don't have a note if somebody's here for the prayer this evening. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
For where envy and self-seeking exist, confusion and every evil thing are there. But the wisdom that is from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, willing to yield, full of mercy and good fruits, without partiality and without hypocrisy. Gracious Father in heaven, tonight we ask for that wisdom that comes from above, just as Solomon asked for wisdom above riches, for wisdom above power or fame. We ask for wisdom, wisdom to lead the people of this town in every facet, spiritually and socially and economically. God, we pray for your wisdom and your guidance as we navigate the issues of life. Lord, I want to thank you for all that you have done for us thus far. God, I thank you for the unity and love that is in this community already, that makes this community. God, it is particularly refreshing to see all the churches and businesses come together and restock the shelves of the Agape House. And God, I just, I thank you for things like that in this community, God, and I pray that you continue to move through us and use us in this way. God, I pray for your hand of protection on all of our children as they go back to school. God, I pray for our teachers, that you protect them and that you grace them with patience and kindness and with your generosity. Lord, I thank you for all the servants of this city. May your hand be upon them. May you bless them. And God, I pray as always that you continue to make this city a city on a hill and a light that shines and a hope to other people. And we thank you for it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. Can I have a motion for the approval of the agenda?
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion, do we have a second?
I'll second it with an amendment.
Okay, go ahead.
No, item 10, unfinished business, it's more of just a clarification, there's no mission. We've got item 10, unfinished business on Bill 5190, shows that it's tabled July 19th, August 2nd, and then we also need August 16th in there, I believe.
Okay,
Good catch.
yep. Thank you. Rick, are you okay with the amended version of your motion?
Yes, I am.
Excellent. So approve the agenda with the amended version. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any nays? Anybody abstain? Excellent. Approve the minutes from the regular meeting on August 16th of 2022. Do I have a motion? Anybody?
I would make that motion.
Thank you, Alderman Cleve. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any nays? Any abstain? Motion passes. Thank you. Public participation. We have a few speaker cards this evening. As a reminder, when you come up to the mic, you'll have 5 minutes, and we need your full name and address. So we'll start with Thomas Love. Mr. Love?
Thomas Love, 211 Candlewick. In the packet on this study, I hope they're doing more of a study than just on the tractor trailers, because general traffic is a big issue there. At certain times of day, it's hard to get in and out of your driveway. And then there also is the traffic violators of speeding, not stopping at the stop sign out of the industrial drive. So those are my issues that I have. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. We have Daniel Conway. Mr. Conway, if you can give us your address, that would be great. And you have 5 minutes, sir.
Okay, my address is 3001 Spruce Street, St. Louis City, Missouri, 63103. I'm also the applicant of the rezoning of the 48 acres that'll be coming up later. And I just want to reiterate today that we're a design build contractor. Our integrity's been in question many times about that we're going to skirt the issues and not do things per code. I've built 4 fraternity houses in Rolla, Missouri. I have built parking garages, many warehouses, buildings, and we create raving fans of our work. And we wouldn't be able to do that, if we were being deceptive and not working with the city, not working with residents around, and not, letting everybody, participate. The other thing I think, because our integrity keeps being called in question every single meeting here, and the board kind of gets threatened, and there's a lot of saber rattling going on. The other thing that my business adheres to, I'm a 32-year Rotarian, and we follow in our business the 4-way test. And is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? And will it build goodwill and better friendships? And will it be beneficial to all concerned? And I think what you've seen in our previous plan, I've come up here for several meetings, and I've addressed the hot buttons, which has been the water runoff. We've told you that we cannot add any additional runoff up to the 100-year storm off of the property. I've also addressed the truck traffic and the shift traffic, that if we really want to address that, if you want to get it to zero, shut the road down, put a fence and a gate and a Knox box for emergency vehicles. I don't know if 20 vehicles okay or 100 vehicles are okay, but if you want to get it to zero, you can do it in 60 days. So I've addressed the hot buttons of the water, truck traffic, shift traffic. So we have brought to the board and to the residents solutions to all of these, because I really do believe that the city of Pacific can move forward and everybody can coexist. We are putting a 50-foot tree buffer on the north side of our development and on the west side of the development. There's also common ground at the Westlake area. A lot of the areas will have almost 100-foot buffer, and then we're setting aside 2.5 acres of forested area. I think that's more than reasonable and fair, to try to get everybody to coexist. And I think you're going to have more traffic noise, more noise off of Highway N to those properties than you're going to have from this industrial park with these buffers. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody, that we've worked with the board, we've worked with the residents, I've met with all the residents afterwards, and we're here to solve the problems and get everything so we can all coexist and the city of Pacific can move forward and that it's fair and reasonable to all. So that is my comment for tonight, and we'd like, we're not looking for a vote tonight, but we would like to see that this issue get resolved on the 20th. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. Next would be Barbara Alt. And if you could give us your name and address for the record, and then you have 5 minutes. I'll wait until you're done with that.
He's got some coming down.
Oh, we got 2 more here. I think we're good. Are we good, Rick? Oh, Scott?
Yeah, these are single-page
Oh, okay.
items. Okay. and we
Thank
got
you, ma'am.
plenty.
I'm Barbara Alt, 1951 Patricia Lane, and I'm one of the 4 owners of the 40 acres that everybody's concerned about the water and the traffic from. The decision on rezoning our 48 acres of farmland from non-urban to light industrial is an important one. During this period that this ordinance has been pending, we've heard several questions and issues come up, most notably around traffic handling and water runoff. But I think the true issue here is one of integrity and trust. A few voices in various places have said very loudly that they want detailed information on everything from traffic studies and water flow to the names of tenants for each building before they even think this ordinance should be rezoned. Now, I believe these concerns largely stem from questions of integrity and trust. It's appropriate for the city to do comprehensive traffic studies and make some changes. This should have been done years ago and updated regularly as Pacific grows. I hope that becomes part of the city's mode of operation. But this need doesn't have a whole lot to do with this zoning decision. It's also appropriate for the developer to be held responsible for following laws and best practices about handling water flow as the project progresses. The responsibility for all this falls mostly in the later stages of the process. It's also appropriate for the citizens of Pacific to demand that the developer, the Board of Aldermen, and other city officials follow the laws related to subdivision, planning, to code, and any other processes throughout the project. Our family's experience with prior planning and zoning incentives is that the city does do this, and we are confident that this board will do so as well, especially given that this project is entirely in line with the city's master plan that's been there for years. Now, at the last meeting, I filled you in on a little bit of the background there. And people planned years ago for this to happen. 12 years ago, I started trying to divide that piece of property. And the city insisted that it was going to be developed and made me buy a spike strip, which I later donated to the city. And then they made me put in a road easement, which cost me a bunch in surveys and attorney fees. What is not appropriate is to attempt to stop the rezoning by using misinformation. Things like referring to conceptual drawings that are entirely appropriate for this stage of the process as just pictures that don't mean anything, and saying things like, the developers can do whatever they want once the zoning is approved. Those comments are misinformation. I mean, right? Administrator Roth, I saw that in your report. Okay. I believe that there are 3 reasons that people would say these things. First, lack of understanding of the planning and zoning process for developments to work. That's entirely reasonable, and I'd argue it's the city's job to educate concerned citizens on how these processes work, not just for this project, but for any project. Second, lack of trust due to prior projects being approved that people feel are not in line with the law. This may be a valid point, especially when considering questions about the manners at Brush Creek. But here's the thing. The people responsible for that controversy are mostly no longer on the board because they either chose not to run again or they got voted out. I believe the political process worked and that our city has put forth new leaders who will follow the law. Third, lack of integrity to admit their own motives for opposing rezoning. Of course, the developer and my children and I stand to gain financially from this deal. A for-profit enterprise wants to purchase land for a business venture. That's not a secret. But what people may not realize is that some of the loudest voices against this development have their own motives that are questionable.
Hey, Barbara.
They'd like to see a development that would provide many jobs to the area and that is directly in line with the master plan fail so that they can have their property rural and have property behind them rural.
Hey, Barbara, I'm just going to need you to wrap it up. I'm sorry. Your 5 minutes is up.
Is it?
Yeah, I know. It goes by fast.
Okay. The main thing is what's best for the city. Is it to follow the wishes of a few who want to see the land remain rural, or is it to follow the master plan? Rezoning the property light industrial and trusting that the developer and city leaders will ensure this turns into positive development. I believe the city leaders can be trusted with this decision. I believe they will enforce the law, local, state, and federal. I also believe that general contractor Dan Conway can be trusted. All those fraternity houses he built in Rolla, they were very pleased with his work. They asked him to come back and build another one and another one and another one. So I have no doubt that he will conform to the law. So I think we can trust our city officials. I think we can trust Conway, and I would like us to move forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Barbara. Appreciate it. Next is Jeff Hawley. If you can state your name and address, and you'll have about 5 minutes.
Good evening.
Thank
My
you
name is
very
Jeff
much.
Hawley. I'm with a company called Block Hawley, and my address is 146 Chippenham Lane, Chesterfield, Missouri. I'll yield probably about 3 or 4 minutes of my time so that Barbara doesn't get penalized for the extra time that she took. I am one of the 2 development team members that has proposed this. I just want to let you all know that we aren't here to create more problems in the city of Pacific. We're here to obviously make money, but we're also here to help grow the city. And I think that this plan, I've been doing this for 36 years. I've done it in other municipalities within St. Louis City, as well as St. Louis County, and really exclusively industrial property. I just want to reiterate the fact, and I think the city attorney probably understands this, we're just here to get this property rezoned, right? I've been here almost every single meeting, and this has kind of taken its own, because people are concerned. There are existing flooding problems with other properties that surround here. I've actually met with Steve Roth, I met with Steve Myers, my partner and I sat down with them. My understanding is that the city wants this to be, or has master planned this for quite some time as light industrial. And that's what we were looking for. So we went forward and put the application in. Obviously, there are going to be people that think that this could turn into a huge fiasco. The fact of the matter is that I have a responsibility. I have a reputation in St. Louis. I've been doing this a long, long time. And we don't want to make more enemies, okay? We want to try and help the city manage what I consider to be a major, engineering issue that's really probably more due to obsolescence and the fact that things have changed over 30 or 40 years. So I've introduced and I've discussed with Steve Roth and with Steve Meyer the idea of maybe even doing a SID, trying to help the people in Westgate, trying to help everybody around. I think we've tried to compromise as much as we can. And I just wanted to, and you all know there's a process here. You have a process, and we have to follow it. So we intend fully to follow it. We can't build anything without those drawings being fully engineered and approved by the City of Pacific. So I just want you to understand, we're here to help. We're not here to hinder. We want to see the city grow. Obviously, if that's not what the city wants to do, you'll tell us in a couple weeks when we vote on this issue. So anyway, I just want to thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Once again, not here to ruffle feathers, here to help. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out, okay? Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you so much. Mr. Gary Meadows.
Good evening.
Name and address, please.
Gary Meadows, 2010 Highway N Pacific.
Thank you.
I had some remarks pre-prepared, but I think I'm just going to riff a little bit now because from what I gather from Mr. Conway and Mrs. Alt's remarks, you can trust Dan Conway, you can trust Barbara, but if you're against the rezoning, then you can't be trusted because you don't properly understand things. You're not trustworthy, or you lack integrity about your own motives. Let's be clear. One of the reasons that I'm opposed to the rezoning is because they haven't done their homework in terms of addressing probably the major issue out there, which is the water issue. There's been plenty of opportunity for the developer, the applicant, Ms. Alt, to get a surface water study done to be able to actually demonstrate to you that what they're proposing is not going to cause any further problems. They have not done that. I think we all know that. That's clear. That they have no intent to do that. I did some rough calculations earlier today, and if they hardscape to roughly 80-85% of that property, that's about 38 million gallons of 38 million gallons of water that has to find somewhere to go. I haven't heard anybody explain where that's going to go, and where do you think it's going to go? It's going to go to the neighboring property. That's where it's got to go. Now, they can say all they want about they have to comply with the rules. I'm a lawyer, for those of you who don't already know that. I've seen plenty of people who maybe have good intentions of following the rules, and when it goes badly, they don't stand up there and say, my bad, I'll take care of all of it. No, they don't. They say, you can't blame it on me. I don't know how it happened. And then it turns into a huge fight, and sometimes damage can't be undone. I've been in some of those cases. And I've seen people lose their homes to water, basically homes that are underwater 100% of the time. And I've actually seen people have to live in those homes while they're trying to figure out how to fix the legal problems. So the reality is, that all good intentions aside, and maybe they do have good intentions, that's fine. But that doesn't mean you don't have to do your homework, because the other fact that we know is they may or may not have to come back before this board when they do development. If they subdivide, I believe they have to, but if they choose to not go down that path, they don't have to. They can just work with the staff and just get building permits and start doing whatever they're going to do without this board ever having a voice just in what they're doing. So the bottom line on this is if they genuinely care about the water issues, they should either do a surface water study or the board should require them to do a surface water study as it has the power to do at their expense. Now, they just have to deal with this. They can show where those 38 million gallons of water are going to go. Is it going to raise groundwater levels? One other point Mr. Conway said, he said, I've got 50 feet barriers and we're leaving 2.5 acres clear. What he didn't say is part of the land they're clearing is where the creek actually runs. So I don't know what you do when you basically just terminate the creek right off of our property and leading to Westlake. I don't know where that water goes. And he hasn't explained it. And in fact, I question whether he's even walked through that property because it's really very mushy and it gets very messy back there sometimes. You take that away and I don't know what happens. But certainly I don't think he does either, which is why they should have to do a study. I think this board should require them to do a study if it's going to continue down this path. If you really want to protect the neighbors that live around there and the city from any future problems about water, get the information on the front end because you may never see them on the back end if they decide they don't want to come back here. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Meadows.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jan Jones.
Thank you. I'm Jan Jones. I live at 201 Candlewick. My concern is the traffic, and now there's traffic. You're going to deal with the trucks. What about the traffic that comes, the workers? These places don't open at 6 in the morning. They start 4, 5 in the morning when the traffic's coming by our homes. It's ridiculous. I try and walk my dogs at a little after 6, 6:30. It's terrible out there. You know, it's not fair to the citizens that live down this road. I haven't seen anyone come down our roads and talk to the people that live there and deal with this day in and day out. And it's just not fair. If they can close it off, that would be great. You know, there's something that Tom was showing me about buses. What buses use that road? School buses don't come down that road. They stop at the end of it. So the only buses I've seen have been from Clancy, and that's where my husband works. I've seen them come through once in a while. Nothing else. So I hope you consider doing something for the people that live there.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I don't have any other cards, so that'll end public participation for the evening. Thank you, everybody, for participating. So we will move on to new bills. Madam Clerk, if you can read Bill 5157, or Mr. Jones, I think, is doing the honors this evening.
Yes, I will.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Bill number 5157, an ordinance repealing parking restrictions on Union Street. First reading.
Do I have a sponsor for Bill 5157?
I'll sponsor that bill.
Thank you, Mr. Presley. We can note that Alderman Presley will sponsor 5157. Next, we'll move on to consideration of bills previously introduced. Bill 5156. Mr. Jones?
Bill 5156, an ordinance prohibiting the occupancy of structures deemed unfit for human habitation. Second reading.
Excellent. Do I have a motion for approval of Bill 5156?
I make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Do we have any discussion?
Yes. In the ordinance, it basically says that you cannot have any kind of campers, anything like that. I understand the intent. What I worry about is someone who is building a home and living in a camper for the 6 to 9 months it takes them to build the home. So I don't want us to restrict people's use of their property, but I understand I assume I understand the intent of it, but that part of the ordinance is an issue for me. That was really all I had on that.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions or concerns with the bill? Any comments?
I spoke with the chief, and he gave some good clarification on it, and there does seem to be a need for it, which is important to understand. I did take some calls from some residents as well, and they're about the same issue, which is, you know, this is our property, and now I'm being restricted. When I spoke with the chief, and I'd like him to jump in whenever appropriate, he said that those instances we'd have to change something, put in a permit process for people that may have friends over from out of town. They might be staying for a week or so. I think at this point, I think the bill's good, given the problems that the chief pointed out. I also think we need to take a look at it, and I'm not sure what the next step is. Maybe it's sending it to a committee, and we can change a couple of things in there so that we still protect those rights of those property owners and their use of their land without unduly inconveniencing them, because I think having to come in and do a permit process, if you've, you know, whatever reason, as Mr. Cleve pointed out, you're using it temporarily, your house is being in construction, again, having people out of town, having to go through that process, go downtown. I just don't want to have us putting people in that position as citizens. So if we can take a look at it, and would it require a motion? Is that the?
So if you'd like, you can make a motion to move it to a committee for further discussion before.
Is that the best action?
So there's two options, right? So we can take a vote on it this evening, pass or deny it, either way. Or we have the option, or right now, we could move it to operations or administrative, and then we can discuss it there and then bring it back for approval. It's really kind of up to, sorry.
My 5 minutes.
Yeah, sorry. We have the option then to discuss it now. Putting it to a committee will delay the process, obviously, of the bill, which I'm not sure, that would be more up to chief. If it's super time sensitive, then it's kind of up to what the board wants to do with that, so.
Can I say something?
Of course, thank you, chief.
So I appreciate your concern for those that want to use their property for a variety of housing situations. However, I would ask the city attorney if a permit to allow someone living in their trailer would trump zoning rules and things like that in the city. If we're not zoned for an RV park, how can we have people living in RVs? I think it becomes problematic.
Yes, and we do have very comprehensive ordinances with regard to mobile homes and manufactured homes. And after a particular date, which I don't remember without looking up, they cannot be located anywhere except in approved mobile home parks. But what we're really trying to get at here is using a structure that doesn't have drinking water, that doesn't have the basic things that are required for human sustenance, and maybe there's a way to tighten up some of this language. I do think that we would not allow, if someone was going to actually live in a trailer on their own property, that still would not be, eventually, it would be treated as a mobile home, and it would be given a violation, and it would move through the process.
Yeah, I don't suggest anyone living permanently in an RV on their property. That's not what I'm trying to do here.
Sure. And
Mine is a temporary situation, and
So if we can give temporary, does that mean that someone could put a trailer on their property and then rent it out as an Airbnb temporarily? What we have is that we have a serious transient issue of people who are unsheltered in our town. And they are finding Pacific to be a positive place for them to crash, whether it's a night in one place and then another night somewhere else and then a night in the woods. But we feel like through discussions in the police department, we think we've probably seen that population in Pacific probably double just in the last year. And we're not the only city that's having this issue. There's cities having all issues with this all over this county and the state and the country. So I'm not opposed to tightening it up, but I don't think it should be a discussion about temporary housing or just because one person's a nice guy and they'll uphold a standard, It won't mean that everybody will uphold that standard that wants to live temporarily in an RV. We already have people living temporarily in RVs, and that's part of our problem. So I think if, it sounds to me like you want to pick and choose who gets to stay temporarily in an RV, and quite honestly, in police work, that's a dangerous road to go down, making rules for some people and not others. So I have problems with that from the enforcement side, and I think we would have problems with that ethically, to decide by who they are, what they get to do.
Does that answer your question?
No, yeah, I was going to say, the options going forward that you addressed. I think we can find that common ground. I think as the words were being used, we can tighten it up, we can address the issues of the homeowners. Again, the people that own the property, the people that have the rights to use it and enjoy it as they see fit, as long as they're not a nuisance to someone else or their neighbors. We're talking about the people that are not the property owners that are coming through, and I think we have some other laws that can address it, and I think we can put that language in this one. We can change this and get it right, and we can accommodate both, and I think we can get the chief's concerns addressed.
Actually, we're not talking about people who aren't property owners. There's at least one property owner that has temporary housing in a van on his property, and he won't do anything to abate it. And it's his property.
Yeah, you're
So this
speaking-
ordinance helps us tighten that up, because then we can go after the property owners for allowing this kind of activity on their property. Because that's one of the biggest issues we have. Homeless camps where property owners don't take any action to rid the property of it, or they outwardly allow people to live on their property for their own, whatever their own reasons and their personal gain is. So I'd be happy to put this in some kind of a committee, but I would want to have a say to be present in the committee and offer some insight into what we're really trying to do with this ordinance, and how it can be enforced, and some of the pitfalls that come into enforcing these types of ordinances.
Yeah, that sounds agreeable, definitely.
So would you like to move it to operations, administration?
I was going to say, I'd make a motion to send this to one of the committees. Is administration the more appropriate committee?
I don't think it really matters. I know you're on operations, so.
And I think we're meeting, Sarah,
26th, 23rd.
So in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
which is administration meeting, doesn't have one scheduled?
We don't have one for September, no. So that would be,
3rd is our meeting.
that'd be the right committee to put it to then.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to.
So
send
first, we need to rescind our original motions, correct, or not?
Did someone make a motion to approve?
Yeah,
was a
we
second
made
as well.
motion and a
Seconded.
second.
a second.
Yep.
So I'd rescind mine. I'm open to
I don't
conversation
know
on
who
it.
the first one was.
I think it was
I think it
Rick.
was Rick.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that if it's the will of the board to discuss this further, I'd be happy to remove my motion.
Okay.
Or motion.
All right. Scott, go ahead.
And I'll make a motion to send this to Operations Committee for review and amendment.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I would second that.
Excellent. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstentions? Excellent. And then, just as a note, we want to make sure that Chief is present at that meeting so he can help review that.
Correct.
Thank you very much. So unfinished business, Bill number 5150.
Yes, and this has been read, and it's still tabled unless a motion is made to remove it from the table.
Okay. Seeing as no motions are being made, we'll move on to new business. Resolution 2022-56. Sorry?
You said we have to have a motion to ask a question, and I sent a question through Mr. Roth. Is this the point where that needs to come up?
Yes, if you have questions for the petitioner, the developer, or anyone else who has addressed the board, the best way to do that is by giving that to Mr. Roth and letting him communicate and bring back information to you. the public participation portion of the meeting is not generally a back and forth or a dialogue with the people at the podium, so.
Oh, that wouldn't be a question he would ask here tonight for us to hear the answer to.
Well, what is your question specifically?
In talking with you earlier and last week when this came up, I thought you said it has to be picked up off the table so that we can have Administrator Roth ask the question, have the applicant come forward.
No, it would have to be taken off the table to be discussed by this board. If you just want to ask a question of the developer, I think that's appropriate, sure, if you want to do that.
Okay. I'll make a motion to pick up this item then.
Off the table?
Yeah, for the purpose of asking the applicant questions.
Sure. So, just so we're all aware, I personally feel that without the mayor here, that we should let this sit until the next meeting, to ensure that all parties are present, the mayor's here, so that way we can have the right discussion. If you choose to take it off the table, that's more than fine, but I just wanted to make everybody aware that without the mayor being here, I think it is more appropriate to just leave it until the next meeting. But if you choose to take it off, that's perfectly fine also.
Okay. Understood. You can clarify that, my consideration is that if they were asking for a vote next week, trying to get some answers so we have some time to digest it, and instead of having these answers given to us, is that?
Sure, whatever you
that
choose to
fits in
do.
there? Okay.
Sure.
Yeah,
So if you want to take it off the table.
Yeah, I'll continue my motion to pick it up off the table.
Okay, do we have a second?
I would second it so you can ask his question for sure.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Anybody abstain? Go ahead, Alderman Lesh.
Mr. Conway? Yes, I'd like to ask you a question. Hello, sir. They have to state their name again?
Dan Conway.
Thank you. The question I had was the conceptual plans, and I believe you were saying that you're looking for possibly us making a decision on this next week. The conceptual plan shows the main route going in there, which is dependent upon acquiring a further road easement. And one of the plans showed a 90-degree turn, I think if it's left as is, and therefore to eliminate that problem that was discussed, you need that easement. My question is, do you have that in the works? Is that what we're going to be presented with that you'll give to administration, and we'll see this in our packet, and we'll have this information ahead of next meeting?
It has been discussed. It is in the works. It's something that we can look at and develop for you and present before the next meeting if you would like.
Okay. But, so you're saying you haven't had any discussions about that? That's just...
Well, we have had discussions with the property owner, and we can make it work without it. It's not the best, but we've had discussions with the property owner to acquire it.
Oh, so if you don't get additional land, that making it work would still involve that area, which would be that 90-degree turn?
Not quite a 90-degree turn, but very close.
Okay. And do you have any other options, option B for entry into that parcel if that doesn't work out?
That's pretty much it for right now, is that we may be able to move the road or look at, actually there's some ground to the west. You know, if we have to look at another entry point in, there's another piece of ground to the west that we could look at trying to acquire.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
I had something now that we've got it up.
Right ahead.
And if you can't answer this, don't. I'm not trying to really put you on the spot here. But one of the things that's come up multiple times is that creek that's going through behind the Meadows property now and through here. Do you have anything to say about that, or is there any plan to deal with that creek being covered?
Well, that's part of the property that's going to be set aside. So, you know, Mr. Meadows has a piece of property that's got a creek on two sides of it.
Right.
And, you know, that northwest corner, we're just going to set aside, and that creek's just going to run like it is now, and then we can't add any additional runoff to it that is presently going. So, we're just going to let it run like it is. Whatever issues
So that's part
may
of it.
exist now are going to continue to exist, and we're just not going to increase the runoff to it. And we know how much detention that we have to put in. We're not 100% sure if we're going to put in one basin on the north side, it may be two, it may be three, it's conceptual, but per the guidelines, per the engineering, regulations that are in place, we have to provide per the City of Pacific, and we can't add any additional runoff, up to the 100-year storm. So, depending if it's one basin, two basins, or three basins, we're going to abide by the regulations.
Okay, so that just over 2 acres or whatever that you were talking about.
I think it's about 2.5.
That creek is in that acreage.
Yeah, most of it's in it. There may be part of it that's not in it, that may be just the green space of that lot, so, we're not going to, if you look at the drawing that we proposed, really about, 75, 80% of that creek is all in that wooded area.
Okay, so you have no intention of disturbing that creek?
Not at this time. We may be, encroaching on some of the slopes or something of it, but, we're going to keep the natural, flow of that creek alone.
Okay, that was all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Conway, appreciate it.
Thank you.
So now we need a motion to either table, put it back on the table, or to vote on the matter.
I would make a motion to table it.
Okay, do we have a second?
That motion.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays or abstain? Thank you. Very good. So now we'll go back to Resolution 2022-56 under new business.
Resolution 2022-56, a resolution authorizing and directing the mayor to execute an agreement with George L. Crawford and Associates, DBA CBB, for professional services relating to traffic engineering studies of commercial truck traffic in the city of Pacific.
Do I have a motion on Resolution 2022-56?
Well, I guess I could make a motion, but I have discussion, so I
Okay.
guess I can make a motion first. So
We'll get there in one second.
I'll make a motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Excellent. Go right ahead, sir.
I have the same exact issues that others have had. I just want to make sure this is looking at traffic counts and not just truck counts. Now, looking through it, I look at number 2 on this, and it says, for vehicle classification, i.e. passenger cars, light trucks, articulated trucks. And then down to number 3, it says, signing the last part of the sentence, existing traffic counts and truck usage. So that, to me, says cars and trucks. And if I'm not reading that right, I need it to say that it's all traffic.
So on number, so on number 2, it says passenger cars, light trucks, articulated, right? Mm-hmm. So I would assume, and Mr. Roth can clear this up in just a minute, we are counting in there, and your concern is that number 3 does not state anything besides.
No, my concern is that I'm not reading it correctly, and it's just for truck, because when you look at it, Phase 1, existing truck pattern study is Phase 1. And in there, they talk about passenger cars, and then say existing traffic counts and truck usage.
Okay.
So as long as 3 is existing traffic counts and truck usage, meaning all cars and trucks.
Mr. Roth?
Yes. So be it.
Yes, that's my understanding. I can certainly confirm that with the consultant. But yes, for sure, the study is for passenger cars, light trucks, and articulated trucks, which is the large trucks, whether they be tractor trailers or your box trucks, essentially any of those trucks. And then in number 3, again, the memorandum would discuss all traffic, not just trucks. That's my understanding. I'll have the consultant clarify that.
Okay. That was my, I want to make sure it was all traffic, not just trucks.
So phase one should really say existing traffic pattern study, and not truck.
Right, so, can I amend my motion if it's already been seconded, or what do I do there?
Yeah, you can amend it, and then Alderman Gendron has to approve your amendment, or somebody else could second it.
So my amendment is that we approve this pending Mr. Roth getting clarification that it does indeed count all traffic.
Sure.
I'll second that.
Excellent. Any more discussion?
Yes.
Alderman Lesh?
On the second part of this, the signage part, I believe there was a comment by Mr. Bergerman last week about MoDOT, last time we met, about them having information that could tell us where to place these signs. It was along Osage.
Osage and First, not the areas.
Yeah.
Okay. And was there any recommendations that you had as far as being able to place signage? In other words, what I'm looking at is an option other than paying the consultant for recommendations on it.
I guess entirely up to the board if they want to have them do it, or.
Okay, so it wasn't something that you felt you guys were capable of in your department?
Well, I said last meeting that we met with MoDOT to do Osage and do First Street when we redid the truck route. Back when Ben Bridge was loaded.
Okay. That's good. I just thought there might have been another option that was less expensive for us. And the other one I wanted to point out was on that truck and vehicular traffic. I think when I read it, it's not isolating the traffic that's coming in on Candlewick because there's 3 routes you can take there. Is that correct? It was just going to do a study at the intersection of Old Gray Summit Road and Highway N.
It also says Highway Inn in Candlewick and Industrial Drive in Denton.
Yeah. So we'd be left with that number and not knowing whether that's coming across Lamar Parkway, Old Gray Summit Road to Highway N, whether that's coming down Payne Street to Highway N or down 4th Street to Highway N.
Says from these counts, we could identify the number of trucks on Candlewick Lane, Industrial Drive, Highway Inn, and Old Gray Summit Road, thereby having a greater understanding of how trucks are accessing the existing industrial area off Industrial Drive. So I
Right.
think they're,
So we just know, does everybody see what I'm saying? Alls we'd know is how much is coming in the back, but then we'd still be left with a big question mark. Is it, which one of those other 3 roads is he using to get there, to that Candlewick entrance? So I think we might need to, if I'm reading it right, that's why I'm asking if you guys have read it,
Mr. Roth?
back it up.
I think I understand the question. The intent of this scope is to really focus on Candlewick Lane. So the locations were selected so we know the trucks that get to Candlewick Lane, Industrial Highway, and Old Gray Summit Road. If you want to know how they got to those roads, is that the question?
I think that's going to be critical in where signage is and understanding what the traffic pattern is. Yeah, did they come Old Gray Summit Road, Payne Street, 4th Street to get to the Highway Inn in Candlewick?
Right. If we,
Or even, I've heard that there is some traffic that may be coming on the New Bend Bridge.
surely there's some, yes, I would think. Sure, we can do that, but again, obviously that would enlarge the scope. So, you know, the more locations you study, the more the fee
Right.
changes.
Since they're already doing that, do you have any idea if it's gonna go back to the 18,000 for that, or is it,
I mean,
don't know?
yeah, we've been through a couple iterations of this. I think, you know, the question really is, what does the board want? If you want to understand truck traffic patterns throughout the city, I think it was last meeting we had that more comprehensive study. If you want to look just at Candlewick Lane and Industrial, then this, I believe this scope would accomplish that.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Did anybody have any input?
Well, I think I said it at the last meeting pretty clearly, but I think that we're doing a study that in a year won't have any validity. Currently, we have a truck route that doesn't exist. Bridge is out. I'm sure trucks still drive on it every now and then, but at the end of the day, we have a non-existent truck route in our city. So anything that we count now, once that bridge is fixed and we get signage and education like Chief talked about last week, we get better enforcement, like, then we can figure out 6 months after that. So let's say, Steve, what was the estimate on maybe that bridge getting finalized, done with traffic on it? About, we won't hold you to it.
Yeah, mid-year next year, probably into the late summer.
Okay. So let's say that late summer, August, September, the bridge is done. Probably a month or two after that is when we should start really digging into this, in my opinion. I personally believe it's a waste of $12,000 or $18,000 or $20,000 or whatever it is, because right now, they literally can go anywhere. It doesn't matter where they're coming from or how they're getting there. We currently closed our truck route. So I don't believe that it's a good use of the citizens' funds to pay for a study that is really telling us that trucks are all over the city. And there's a very valid reason why they're all over the city, because our truck route's closed. So my opinion is this should not be paid for at all. We should do nothing with it for now, but we should absolutely do one as we get closer, signage, education, enforcement, when the bridge is reopened, which is about a year away.
And I think that's exactly what I was kind of homing in on, which is it's not going to tell us the way it's limited now. It's not going to tell us where the traffic's going to, and I don't know that that's given us any workable information.
Well, there's nothing we can do with it right now.
Right.
It's not like we can say, hey, go down the truck route.
Right.
So doing any of this right now, I think is, for lack of a better way to say it, the cart before the horse. Like, we got to fix our truck route first, and then we can go after and get all of this figured out, in my opinion.
And so we wouldn't be getting the recommendation from this study as far as signage. We're going to have to come up with that on our own then if we don't do the.
Well, I'm not saying that we shouldn't ever do this. I think this is more appropriate in about 8 months to a year. Once the bridge is either done or about to be done, then we should have a study to ensure that we can put up the right signage, education, we get with chief about enforcement. And then we got to give it a little bit of time to get the trucks where they're supposed to be. And then if we're still hearing issues, whether it's Candlewick or N or whatever it is, then we should absolutely pay for a traffic study and figure that out. But I think once it's open and we do all the right education, all that kind of stuff, I think absolutely that should have a major impact in our ability to control where trucks go in our city. So that's just my opinion.
I agree with that opinion. Honestly, to me, spending any money on a study when, like you have said, that our truck route is not open, trucks don't have a correct path to our industrial park, so they don't have a choice to go, but to go whatever's open in whatever direction they can go.
Right.
And I would really love to know this information, not only for our town, but for those that live in Candlewick and other areas of our city that are affected by trucks moving where they don't belong. And I think the key is education and also getting our police department equipped to handle the fines and whatever we can put in place so that it, as I understand it, truckers will go, the word will get out if they start getting heavy fines of being where they don't belong.
Mm-hmm.
And that in itself can correct itself, I believe, so.
You have something to add?
No, I agree with you.
I mean, I'm a data guy. I love data, but I want to be able to do something with the data. And right now, there's nothing that we can do with the data. We just don't have the ability to. It'd be pretty crappy if we wrote
The only way we could use this is if we looked at every possible route. At least it would give us the number of
Or if
trucks, but it's not telling us.
If
where
we had
they're-
a truck route, absolutely.
Yeah, the truck route being out of commission
That's
is a
kind of
big
the
issue.
linchpin in this whole thing.
Yep.
And I think maybe in the near future, it's also a possibility, instead of waiting a year, we just put up some signs. Put up some better signage on the routes that trucks aren't currently allowed and
But that doesn't,
I
that's
think
not
when-
going to help because it's not open.
I think what Andy's saying is as the truck route is being fixed, that's when you do the sign study.
so we,
Get the signs up, and then after you let the signs work for several months, then you do the traffic study. I do not disagree with that,
right.
as bad as that feels
First
right
Street
now.
never became a formal, that First Street never became a formal alternate truck route, is what
I
I'm
don't
hearing you say.
think so. Bob?
There's no ordinance to that effect.
Okay.
The way we do it, though, is actually to prohibit trucks on other, for example, trucks in excess of 18,000 pounds are prohibited on Rose Lane, Western Avenue, Candlewick Lane, Payne Street, Lamar Parkway, from Rose Lane to Old Gray Summit.
Yes, that is what I'm remembering from maybe 2 or 3 years ago, much different Board of Aldermen, but I believe
There?
maybe you were here, Andy. That there was a report that showed, like Payne Street, Lamar, these were not rated for trucks.
Sure.
And that would leave you with just 4th Street and First Street. And so that would be the point I'm trying to say, is maybe in the near future, not a year from now, we can just put up some better signage on those 2 avenues. Because it sounds like we can't put them up on 4th Street. But if we can put them up on Lamar Parkway, put them up before Rose Lane, because right now they're after Rose Lane.
Sure.
And that's the perfect opportunity for them to make a right-hand turn, go spin around and get going the right way. And then a similar thing on Payne Street, redirect them, turn around in the some lot
Right.
there.
Well, I think you're right, and I think, whether we make a note somewhere, but, if it's supposedly a year from now, then you would think in, 6 to 7 months, we would conduct a signage study and a Google map or whatever study to figure out how we can get those kind of things blocked on the mapping applications. But then that can allow us to then put all the education out there. So, we're a couple days away from it opening, Public Works or whoever goes around, puts up all the new signs. The police department understands where it is, they have all the enforcement capabilities, and then we start talking to them. And I think Rick is right, I think it gets around pretty quick. Once a few people get some fines, it gets around pretty quick of where they can and cannot be.
Yeah.
And maybe there's even something to putting education stuff at Pilot. Maybe there's some truck service centers that we could also put education up about that. Pilot would be a good one, to put some of that out, whether it's pamphlets or flyers, or if they would allow us to do that. But I think we have to start there personally before we ever spend, whatever this is, so. Okay. Anything else? Anybody have any more comments? So how do we not vote on that, or do we need to vote it down, or do we just move on, or?
Well, you had a motion to approve it.
We did.
And
With,
then I think we talked
with
ourselves out of it.
clarification from the City Administrator Roth, and that was seconded, so you either
Yeah,
need to withdraw your motion or vote on it and vote it down, so that's.
Would you be willing to just withdraw your motions?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Excellent. Then we will move on. Thank you, everybody. That was a great discussion. Resolution 20.
Just so clarity, we'll remove it from any future agendas, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And I have it on my calendar for a year.
6 months.
I do. 6 months?
Well, yeah, because then we can perform the study, get all the signage ready, because it'll probably take a little bit. For
Okay.
not the traffic study side of it, the
No,
signage.
I know. I'm talking about the signage. I'm talking about the
We
signage.
should probably start that
Think it's
in
6 months?
February or March, I would think.
I'll put it down.
You know how long it takes to get stuff right now, so.
I know. Okay.
2022-57, Mr. Jones.
Resolution number 2022-57, a resolution authorizing and approving the purchase of certain budgeted equipment for the Pacific Public Works Department.
Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Alderman Presley.
I would second that.
Thank you, Alderman Cleve. Do we have any discussion? Robert, did you have anything to add?
Nothing to add unless you have any questions.
Anybody have any questions for Robert? Seeing none, I would, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Anybody abstain? Excellent. Resolution 2022-58, Mr. Jones.
Resolution number 2022-58, a resolution authorizing and approving an increase in the hourly wage rate for a Public Works employee who has met certain conditions of the Public Works collective bargaining agreement.
Do I have a motion?
I would make that motion.
Thank you, Alderman Cleve. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Alderman Lesh. Any discussion? I would like to say congratulations. I don't remember.
Austin.
Austin? Congratulations to him. That's awesome.
That's mine too, but I'll get a raise.
Congratulations, Robert. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any noes or any abstentions? Thank you. Resolution 2022-59.
Resolution 2022-59, a resolution authorizing payment of $2,000 for certain event management services necessary for the 2022 Iron Horse Rodeo.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Excellent. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any nays? And I would like to abstain. 2022-59 we just did. 2022-60.
Resolution 2022-60, a resolution authorizing and directing the mayor to execute change order agreements with Jokerst Inc. for asphalt resurfacing of Arbor Lane and construction of a section of Lamar Parkway sidewalk in the city of Pacific.
Do I have a motion?
I would make that motion.
Thank you, Alderman Cleve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? I would like to thank Alderman Cleve for bringing up the fact that we missed sidewalks from the library to the grocery store, and now we're getting it taken care of. That is excellent. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Anybody abstain? Excellent. 2022-61, and this one is very exciting.
Resolution 2022-61, a resolution authorizing and approving a proposal to create a children's museum exhibit within the Red Cedar Inn Welcome Center and Museum facility, and authorizing certain expenditures necessary thereto.
Excellent. Do I have a motion?
I make a
that
motion.
Scott, Rick, would you like to take the second?
I'll take the second.
Excellent. Thank you, Alderman Presley. Any discussion?
Can I just
Yes.
ask a question? This is coming out of existing museum exhibit funds. It's not in addition to?
Correct.
Okay,
Yep. It's not an additional spend.
okay.
I'm correct on that, right, Mr. Roth?
Yes.
Thank you. Excellent. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any abstain? Any noes? Excellent. And last but not least, 2022-62.
Resolution 2022-62, a resolution authorizing and approving a proposal to install electric service at the Liberty Field Rodeo Arena.
Excellent. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion.
I will second that motion.
Cleared that up for me. Thank you, gentlemen. Any discussion? Steve, did you have anything you wanted to discuss with us, or?
Not really. I know it's very late, and I know Mr. Myers has been the lead on this. If the board does approve it, we'll move as quickly as possible, but I would ask, if you don't mind, Steve, to enlighten the board as to timing. What would you expect if the board approves this?
Pop up to the mic so everybody can hear your voice.
Glad to be waiting for this day for a long time.
Thank you, Mr. Myers.
The electric service and lighting at the rodeo ring has been something we've been after for years. And it's just, I guess the stars are aligning. It's been very difficult to get the cooperation, the funding, and all this kind of stuff figured out. So right now, the contractor has a window of opportunity, or so they say, that we hope that it could get the work done between now and rodeo time, but you all know that's September 30th. So time is of the essence here, so thank you for passing this. But I'm not going to hold my breath, all right? And I just appreciate everyone's patience as we try to get this done. It may make it for this season, it may not. So, having said that, we're going to keep the pedal down and try to get it done.
Excellent.
Thank you.
The one question I did have, Robert, do you remember about how much we spend on light stands for the rodeo every year, approximately?
I think it's between 10, 12 grand, that's pretty high.
So within about 5 years, we'll have paid this off by not renting light stands.
Yes.
Okay.
And generators.
And generators. So that's even more. Okay. Excellent. So we have a first and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any nays? Any abstentions? Excellent. I do not have anything for the mayor report this evening. City administrator report.
Nothing to add.
Thank you, Mr. Roth. Chief of police report.
Nothing, Your Honor.
Thank you. Robert, Public Works Commissioner?
So I sent my report out last week. If you got any questions, let me know. Thank you for passing 2022 57 and 58. I think the message board would be nice. 3 to 5 weeks out, he tells me, so fingers crossed we'll get it before the rodeo. If not, then I guess we'll have it next year.
Yeah.
But anybody
That's
else
awesome.
have anything for me, or?
Anybody have anything for Robert?
I was going to ask, is there been any other movement on the pond at all?
Not yet, no.
Okay, I didn't think there was, I just
But it's-
fair to ask.
Yeah, it's on my list.
Okay.
And I think I still like to move forward with updating some of our truck signs. You know, they do need updated, so I think that's something we can still do in the meanwhile. But
I just worry that we're updating something that they can't follow anyway, so,
yeah,
but,
doesn't hurt.
no, I mean, if there's things you want to update, definitely, do the right thing, so.
Going back to the pond for a moment, should we ask the county attorney to draft a deed for us to look at and possibly approve at the next meeting?
What does that mean? We don't own it?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what you're referring to, actually.
Oh, we do already own this right. Yeah, we just
Okay.
recharacterized it.
Yeah, we took it away from the park board.
Took it out of the park.
It scared me. I was like,
Just took it out of the park and gave it to me. I was like,
That's right.
I was like,
And we
No, we
well,
donated
we can
it
give it to the
Franklin
county.
there you go, there you go.
Gave it to you, Robert.
Maybe we could give it to the county.
All in
Motion to give it to
favor,
Attorney
say.
General.
No, I was thinking of another parcel.
Okay.
We already have it,
All right.
right?
I heard a motion to give it to the county. All right, thank you.
Got a lovely lake house there.
Yeah.
Right.
Director of Community Development, Mr. Myers?
Okay, folks, I wanted to get this into your packets, but I was gone to the Governor's Conference on Economic Development. So we also had an illness in the building department, and he's doing much better and back in the swing of things, so we're grateful for that. So you have a report of the activity over the last month, and then I've given you a much abbreviated report to get this in for tonight, and I've handed it all to you. You see the Red Cedar updates. It's moving along. We hope to have a key to the building and be done with the construction phase by the end of the month, which would be awesome. So I'll have a more thorough report for you next time. Do you have any questions for me?
Anybody have anything for Mr. Myers?
Oh, so that was in Mr. Ross' report about the signage. Can you tell us about the signage that I guess will be coming to us?
Which signage are you referring
The
to?
Route 66 badge, the history committee had discussed it first. So in his report, he mentioned that we've got it.
I think you're probably,
Got a
are
decision?
you referring to the change order? Yes, later in the meeting, there's a decision on proposed change order for a laser cut steel Route 66 emblem.
Good. Later in the meeting.
Okay,
You're gonna be
you don't
done.
have anything you want to?
I have one thing, Mr. Myers. I have one quick thing. And this, if it's not appropriate, so be it. We can talk about it after the fact, I guess. But planning and zoning, talking about the CUP application for lot 130, 3rd Street. It's listed on the website as like 210 3rd Street, which would be the north side of the tracks, like it was a different lot.
Interchangeable. It's the same
Okay,
spot.
because the signs are at the same place.
It's on the south side of the tracks.
Yeah, no, I know where it is. I'm just, but the notice on the website has a different address than 130, is all I'm saying.
I think it is the same place. It just has that address referred to it in
Okay.
one instance and the lot 130 in another.
Gotcha, so it's a lot versus an address.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
I would just say, just to be sure, that it does list the address on that CUP that was posted on our website as 210 South 3rd Street. So
And that's correct. That's correct also. I just put it in the note as 130, lot 130 today, because that's what I was referencing when I typed this up.
So 210
It's the
is the
same thing.
location south of the
Same
railroad
place.
tracks. Okay, just want to make sure we get the address right on the notifications,
Yes, sir.
and that's all that's correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. City Attorney report.
Nothing to report.
Thank you. City Collector is not here. Operations Committee, Jerry is not here. Does anybody have anything?
I would note, it was discussed a little bit earlier, Operations has set a meeting for September 23rd at 1 PM.
Okay, excellent. No report from Administrative Committee. Miscellaneous, approve change order 33, Red Cedar signage, option E, in the amount of $2,270.00. Do I have a motion? Not everybody at once.
I make a motion to approve.
Okay, do I have a second? Okay. So then does it just die without a second?
It does.
Okay. Excellent. So A, under miscellaneous, has died due to no second. So B, approve Pacific High School Homecoming Parade Special Event Permit on Friday, October 2nd, 2022, and I believe there's a copy left at everybody's area.
Yeah, can I just make, I'm sorry. The route has changed, and the chief, Chief Milius, as well as Mr. Myers, has participated in a meeting last week, and I believe the application that was in the board packet still had First Street. The school district no longer intends to utilize First Street. Instead, they want to use Second Street. So that revised application was set out on the dais.
Was there any particular reason for First Street, or is it just that we don't want to close it anymore, or?
I would defer to either chief or Mr. Myers.
It's the parade is moved, it's on a Friday afternoon at 3 o'clock, so.
That would answer that question. Thank you. I didn't notice that part of it. Thank you very much. Do we have a motion?
I would make that motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Excellent. All in favor, or any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Anybody abstain? Motion passes. C, approve special liquor license for the Cigar and Cocktail Lounge, 115 North First Street, for liquor for sale by the drink on October 14th, 2022 for the Witches and Warlocks. Do I have a motion?
I'd make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Excellent. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any noes? Anybody abstain? Excellent. And finally, D, approve payment of invoice 2 and 3, Derek Pryor Design, Inc., in the amounts of $8,100 and $12,500. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a
That's okay.
second?
I'll second.
Excellent. Very good. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Anybody abstain? Very good. Report of city officials, I do not have anything this evening. Alderman Cleve.
The only thing I've got is I had a brief conversation, but I've been questions on the enforcement of tractor trailers and things like that on Highway N, Candlewick, all the stuff we've been talking about. And I just wanted to be able to answer for people, and so Chief does a much better job at things like this than me, so we really kind of answered the whole thing, though, which is our truck route is broken. And so if we try to enforce it, there's nowhere for the trucks to go at this point. Can't answer years previously. And Chief, I don't know if you want to add anything or say anything, either way.
Well, I did check with some of the officers, and I'll have to check in to get the complete statistics, but there has been some enforcement on Candlewick on occasion. The officers will do a detail down there, and they have issued a few tickets, or they address violators when they encountered them on patrols. So that is true, but I think we've already addressed the out-of-date signage and inadequate wayfinding. So we can work on those things that will help us build the tools to do better enforcement, but I don't think we should limit any ideas for closing or whatever might come up in the future. Mr. Jones he is right, the restriction on Candlewick is just a weight restriction. It's really not a route restriction. It's a licensed weight, so it's not difficult to enforce. But it is just a weight restriction of 18,000 pounds. And as many of you know, that's not a very high weight for a truck. So, and it does kind of, the signage does kind of, it's tough to write tickets to people when the signage isn't there beforehand to kind of direct them. So we'll endeavor on the police department to try and address that as much as we can under the current circumstances. But we do look forward to those improvements that the board has worked so hard to figure out and put in place, especially with the fixing of the Denton Bridge.
So basically, you need us to do our job so you can do your job. So once we get the traffic signage underway and get that going and then get the route fixed,
Sure.
then the chief has options. That was all I had.
Excellent. Thank you, Alderman Cleve. Alderman Gendron?
I have nothing.
Excellent. Alderman Presley?
I have nothing.
Excellent. Alderman Evers-Meyer is not here, and Alderman Lesh.
Yes, I wanted to thank Robert. Last week we talked about Manners at Brush Creek and getting that clean, getting the road cleaned up. And as they continue and enter a new phase, there's more and more of a need to keep those streets clean as the days come. Well, one thing that I took a couple calls on was now we've got workers that are parking on that turn lane. And they pointed out to me, and I went and looked, our no parking sign as you're heading southbound is way down by the bridge, and that's the only one. And we've got two on the other side, which are now pretty much obstructed from view by the banners for the subdivision that are up. So we need to put some signs up, some no parking signs. Having workers, as they work on those houses, those are the first 6 foundations that have gone in there. Those workers have got to park across on Brush Creek Lane.
Sure.
I don't know at what point that gets striped, or I don't know what point it becomes considered a part of the road. For all practical purposes, that turn lane is now. People are even pulling up alongside other people on it. So that is something that I would ask that we get going immediately, is getting a no parking sign up there and conveying it to the superintendents out on the site to let the workers know.
So do we have current no parking restrictions? I know there's been signs on Lamar, but is there a full-blown ordinance regarding that, just to make
I
sure?
remember something about this, yeah.
I want to make sure we got an ordinance first.
I think I remember this conversation in previous boards, yeah.
I think we do, but I just want to clarify before we,
What is the location specifically?
on Lamar.
Parkway, south.
No parking west side of the street from Osage to Rose.
So there's no additional no parking from Rose to Old Gray Summit?
Not a full prohibition. Let's just see if there's a,
Because just because there's signs there doesn't mean there was ever an ordinance passed.
So when you mention it, I think, yeah.
right.
And it's probably a good time to get that handled.
Correct.
Because we don't want anybody parking on that road once things are done either.
Nope.
I think they've had
At
an
all.
accident already. Is that correct, chief?
And there is no limited parking, so that's the only restriction we have.
Nice.
So can we have a draft ordinance at the next meeting for the parking restrictions, basically from, I guess it really would be from Old Gray Summit to Osage, correct? There's no other spot that I can think of where you would park on that road.
Could I add that there are the 3 bump outs for delivery and pickup only, and we would need loading zone added, or the loading zone
Yep, good point.
added in there as well.
Yep.
It was,
The parking ordinance that we could probably add to. I would defer to the attorney on
Okay,
where
from
the best place to
Old
put
Gray
it.
Summit to where?
From Old Gray Summit pretty much to Osage, right? I don't think there's any spot in that run.
And I think it should be both east and west sides.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
Not
On
just
both
west.
sides of
Yeah.
Lamar. Yep.
just, can I add also, what about Brush Creek Lane, as it's called, the new U drive through the subdivision, was that also gonna be a no parking, or?
No, that was never discussed in the onset. That was indentures, I think, that they were restricting that by, but not city, because it's a 28-foot road, if I remember off the top of my head correct. But I don't remember if the subdivision indentures, which we have really no say over, I know they'd.
Not our road, or that?
That will not be our road until a certain point, I believe, correct, Steve?
Will eventually.
Eventually, it'll be our road.
But right now, it's not.
No,
All right.
correct.
So, right. We just need to do another ordinance if that's what's necessary then.
Yeah, after we accept it.
Yep, and then if you want us to instruct Bob, then I just need a motion for Bob to go back and draft the ordinance for no parking on Lamar on the east and west side,
And I'll
from OGS to Osage.
And I will make a motion for no parking ordinance on Lamar Parkway from Osage to Old Gray Summit Road on the east and west sides.
Including the loading zone.
And
And in
And the exceptions
clarifying
for
the
free
loading,
turnouts, yeah.
clarifying the loading zones, yep.
And I will second that.
Excellent. All in favor, say aye. Oh, I'm sorry.
say, do we need a time limit on that?
Can you have it for the next meeting, Bob?
No, a time
No.
limit on those parking, those delivery spots.
Chief said that that might already kind of exist, so,
Well, we would have to add it in schedule or include it. I thought we had passed an ordinance when we first did it. Mr. Roth, you remember? We did something with those loading zones on Lamar. I don't know if we passed an ordinance or we just passed to have them constructed.
It was part of the plan approval, whether there was whether it was specified the exact parking
I don't think we passed
restriction.
anything
I
specifically.
don't know, yeah.
Okay.
I think that part should be researched, and we'll look at it. If there wasn't anything in the initial board approval, then you tell us the intent would be what? Make it a temporary loading zone space? Is that right?
So that was.
We have a schedule for loading zones. We could add it there, or we probably, in the prohibition on the east and west sides of Lamar, from Old Gray Summit to Osage, we can just carve out an exception for the 3 turnouts and limit them to 15-minute deliveries. Just,
Because the original intention was that Amazon, FedEx, UPS would use those, so that way they weren't blocking the road, but they were not for general public use.
Yeah, that's fine. We can write it that way, sure.
yeah, I'll draft it that way, and then you can talk about it.
Do you agree with that, Alderman Lush?
I do.
So that would still stand as your motion?
I'll keep my motion, yes.
Did we have a second?
We did?
Okay. Are we ready for an all in favor?
Yes, we are.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any noes or abstentions? Thank you. Anything else, Alderman Lush?
That is it.
Excellent. Well, if nobody has anything else, we will ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Excellent. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Awesome. All in favor, say aye.
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 I'm a little anxious.
I know, all right. Thank you, everybody. Great meeting.
Looked a little scared there when that came. Like it's gonna go fly.